Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Space.
And I'm Sparrow.
And we welcome you to our episode, which is about what today?
So today is going to be a great one. We have a fursuit making survival guide for you today.
But before we get into that, this was a topic that was kind of, inspired by a request from one of our followers, Tabasco Twinkie. So shout out to them. Yay.
I just thought about their name. Tabasco is a sauce.
Yeah.
So now I'm just imagining a Twinkie filled with Tabasco sauce, and that is foul.
Almost seems... I mean, it's not a bad idea.
No, it is. It is.
I mean, think about it. No. Like, it's a little bit of spicy, a little bit of sweet.
Gross.
It's like a sweet and sour puff. But it's more like a sweet and spicy puff.
Gross.
So, I mean, you get your spice, you cool it down with some cream, more or less whipped cream.
I'll let you believe what you want to believe on this one.
So basically what they had asked us to do was to talk about fabrics, textures, and color theory. That's a little bit more difficult to speak about. So you got inspired and you did what?
So I thought about, you remember this old show? I don't know, maybe you're too old to remember it, but it was called Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide.
Never even heard of it.
No, it was this show on, I think, Nickelodeon or Disney. And it was these middle schoolers who were creating a survival guide and just creating tips and tricks on how to survive school. And it was in a little composition book and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Survival guides are a real thing too. Like you could buy them when you go camping. And I was like, why not have a fursuit making survival guide? And I was like, this is too big of a project to do on my own. And every fursuit maker is different. Yeah. So I turned to Twitter and I made a post. And my post says, Fursuit makers, on our podcast, we're going to record an episode called Fursuit Making Survival Guide. What are some survival tips you would give someone starting their fursuit making journey? And we got about 105 responses. It kind of blew up.
Damn, this post got viewed 30,000 times.
It's so fun. I love it when things like this pop off because, even more so than making fursuits, something I really enjoy in the fandom is just having genuine and fun conversations, even if they're over the internet. And this was great. This was really fun to read through to see exactly how each fursuit maker thinks, And I think it's going to be extremely helpful as well.
There's tons of tips in here. I mean, you could easily roll this into a book and be like, here's your survival guide.
Definitely. But this is inspired by that question, but I still want to try and give just a quick answer for this person because I would hate for them to be like, well, it's not exactly what I asked for. And I do want to give a quick answer for Tabasco Twinkie. Is that correct? Is that the name?
Yep, that's the name.
Gross.
Not you.
Not you person. Just the idea of the food. So they mention fabric types, fabric textures, and color theories. So let's start off with fabrics. When it comes to fursuits, your most common fabric type is going to be faux fur. And there are different piles you could get. You could get really long fur. It's usually called monster or gorilla fur. It has about a 3-inch pile. And that's great for really long, flowy parts. However, it does get matted very quickly and you cannot shave it because it's very thin. So keep that in mind. You can also get fox fur or faux fur. Fox fur is spelled Fox. It's still synthetic, but it's a little bit coarser. And then classic faux fur is just your standard fursuit fur. That's what you see about 90% of the time used on fursuits. It's about 1 to 2 inch pile. You're typically able to shave it down really well. It's very soft, very high quality, really reliable. And then you have seal fur or beaver fur, which is really short pile fur. You typically don't have to shave it. If you do, you don't have to shave it down a lot, and it's very silky smooth. All of those work fine for fur types. Now, when it comes to alternative fabrics to use on the outside of a fursuit, fleece can work really well. Always use anti-pill fleece, never use polar fleece. Polar fleece is extremely low quality, and it pills up really bad, and it's
Isn't that what they use in blankets?
And really cheap blankets, yes.
Yeah.
And it's not great to use for literally anything. I don't suggest buying it at all. Anti-pill fleece, on the other hand, is really good. If you want to save money, you could use fleece on the face of your fursuit and then use fur on things like the ears and the neck and the cheeks. You can use fleece for paw pads. You can use it for tongues, lining mouths. It's great. Even better for things like paw pads and noses is minky. It's a very, very short, smooth pile of fur, and you can get it at any craft store, and it doesn't till up.
I can't stand the word minky.
Minky, why?
There's a stupid company out here called Minky Couture, and they make blankets. They're just minky blankets. That's all they are. But it's minky, minky, minky. And every Mormon person out here has one. And they can't get enough of it. And I'm just like, shut up. And I hear it on the radio and like, Minky Couture. And I'm just like, oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
I'm sorry. But that's the best fabric to use for paw pads and noses. I don't suggest using it for teeth or tongues because, well, no, tongues it's fine, but not for teeth because they're so small that you could really see the fur pile on it, and it makes it look like the teeth have hair. So I would stick to neoprene or fleece for teeth.
Color theory is an interesting one.
Color theory, that's rough because every artist is different. And color theory, I feel like when people say color theory, they actually mean like color palettes. Because color theory it's literally a theory. It's its own complicated thing.
You can actually get a degree in color theory.
Yeah, and I definitely don't have that degree, right?
My hairstylist does. She's amazing because she'll take like all these different colors and kind of put them together, and then it creates these like deeper colors or brighter colors. And I'm like, I would have never thought to use that. And she's like, color theory. I'm
Damn.
like, no thanks.
So I'm not going to say color theory for fursuit making. I'll say like color palettes, choosing your colors wisely. Whenever you're looking at a color wheel and you are using two colors, let's say the color of your fur and the color of your paw pads, try to use shades that aren't too close to each other on the color wheel. Usually, if you have more contrast, it works better, right? So if you have a light gray fursuit and the fur is that light gray color, and you have a really light dusty gray paw pad color, those are very close in gradient and they're going to blend together. It's not going to pop at all. And maybe that's what you're going for. But if it's not, try looking at colors that are on different parts of the spectrum from black to white, and that will help you out a lot. Also, just play around with color palettes on Google. That's super helpful. Buy swatches online. Don't worry too much about what other people say. Do what you like. If it looks good to you and it's your fursuit, go for it. But if you want something that's generally aesthetically pleasing, check out some color palettes online. That'll help you out.
And if you're feeling like a field trip, go to your local Home Depot and go to the paint section where they have all those free color swatches. You can easily go and take a look at that and see what colors look good on colors if you need like a physical visual version of it.
That is such a good idea, Space.
Right?
Bless up.
Well, for one, those little papers, they're all free, so you can just go up to them, grab them, and walk out with them. But it's a really good way for you to kind of see physically this color and this color together. It's one thing when you're looking at a screen because the screen can vary with how the color is going to be in real life, but it's another thing when you can actually go and see it physically.
True. Just pull a Bluey and steal a million of them.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, be careful. Some 8-year-old on TikTok is going to go to Home Depot and just make a fursuit out of swatch paper. That
actually be kind of cool. I would like to see that.
You know what? Maybe it would look like a piñata.
Yeah. Ooh, piñata. Well, let's get into our main topic because we do have a lot to go over.
We sure do.
So first on the list comes from Heads and Tails AZ. There are no milestones you have to meet in order to be a good artist. Grow and change at your own rate. I know this is hard, impossible even. Don't compare yourself to others. Only you can produce your art.
I was really happy that this person was one of the first people to respond to this tweet because that immediate response hit so close to home for me because I've been making fursuits for a very long time. And I started making fursuits around the same time as a lot of really popular fursuit makers, like Phoenix Wolf, for example. We started making fursuits around the same time. Eno as well. We also started making fursuits around the same time. They were a little bit older than me, but we did start around the same year. And yet, I always feel like those people are at so much of a higher rank than me. And sometimes it can get frustrating, like comparing your work to somebody else, especially if you've been making suits for around the same amount of time. But that is just, it's so true. Only you can produce your art, and you're going to work at a different pace than other people. You're going to improve at a different rate than other people. And that is okay. Everybody works differently.
I just saw your comment, and then I saw the muscle, and I was just like, built different.
Built different.
Let's see. From Steam_pirate. Take breaks if you start feeling frustrated. Stop, leave it on a good note and pick it up in a few hours or even the next day. The more you push yourself, the faster you will feel burnt out. You don't need to finish it in a single day, and self-care means better work overall.
That's very true. If you get frustrated while working on anything, whether it's fursuit or art, and you keep going, that frustration is going to cause you to make mistakes. It's going to cause you to fall out of love with your project because you're not going to associate it with being creative and having a good time. You're going to associate it with being frustrated and pissed off. Take those breaks.
From @AsherFluff, please don't hot glue everything. Do some sewing, and minimal glue helps with longevity, cleanability, and future upgrades and repairs.
Yep, it's true to an extent too, because there are times where hot glue is the best way.
Yeah.
Like when you put fur down onto foam, you have to glue it. You can't sew it because thread will rip right through the foam. Or when you're putting eyes on a fursuit, or, it depends. Hot glue has its place, but certainly when you're attaching fabric to fabric, sew it. Anywhere where fabric touches fabric, it's always going to be better if you sew it.
I don't even know how to say this person's name. Alduin's Voice O. If you want good-looking teeth on suits, don't use minky or fleece. Minky only looks so good within the mouth lining, but teeth can look wonky. I suggest using neoprene as a scapegoat away from minky. Also, don't use your sewing machine with neoprene. Hand sew it. Trust me.
I've never worked with neoprene before, and this response, actually, about 5 minutes after I read it, I went online and bought some white neoprene. Because most pro fursuit makers that I see now either 3D print their teeth or they use neoprene. So I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for me to try this stuff. And I've always used fleece, like luxury fleece, and it's worked okay. I would say fleece is a good backup if you don't want to buy neoprene. Minky, though, it is tricky with minky because it's so slippery and it makes your teeth look like they have fur, which, teeth don't have fur. So always aim for a shorter pile, definitely.
Neoprene is such an interesting fabric.
That's what those fabric-y pup hoods are made out of.
Well, that's what wetsuits are made out of, is neoprene.
Yep. Yeah. There are two different kinds, too. You could buy the wetsuit kind, but it is going to be more difficult to work with and it's going to be hotter. There's another type that is just standard neoprene, so make sure you know the difference between them also.
I'm thinking the reason between why not using the sewing machine is that while a sewing machine does give you control on most fabrics, I'm thinking neoprene is probably the opposite, and so by hand sewing it, you have more control.
Probably. I've seen people sew neoprene with a machine because there's no way to hand sew a pup hood.
Right.
And other things.
And that's done a
but
different
just
way.
Make sure you use the right sewing machine needle. Oftentimes, if you're having issues with your sewing machine eating your fabric, it's because you're using the wrong needle.
All right. From Critter Campsite. We're all coworkers, not rival companies. We should be lifting each other up and not shooting each other down.
Yes. And this is so hard to remember sometimes because I feel like people naturally like to compare each other and pick fun, but it really isn't a positive environment when you surround yourself and talk like that.
Yeah.
The fandom is a group of creatives, and ultimately, we're all here to just have a good time and create art and consume art. So we should definitely be supporting each other more.
And remember, we've all been at the starting point before, and we all sucked at it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
All right. From Regular Lyrian, don't listen to true crime podcasts while making fursuits.
You mean Regularly Ryan?
Is that what it is? Regularly Ryan?
Yes.
Regularly.
That's my roommate.
Oh. I'm trying to figure it out. Some of these really get me.
This is so funny because this was made as a joke. Because we were talking the other day about how true crime makes me anxious. So they replied and said that. But then Libido Works, who is a very skilled fursuit maker, commented, "Squints, why not?" And I responded, and we couldn't tell if they were actually angry or if they were being funny too. So I replied, "True crime podcasts give me anxiety." And then it became a more casual conversation. But then I revealed the fact that I watch reality TV and urbex YouTubers instead of true crime while I make fursuits.
I want to know why. I want to know the reasoning why.
Why what?
Why? Never mind. I think you explained it.
Why true crime makes me anxious?
No, why not to watch true crime during making podcast or making
it's
stuff.
Because it specifically makes me anxious.
Oh.
But no, I'll be sitting there sewing up some fursuit paws and watching Hoarders. And I'm sitting there like, ooh, girl, That's nasty. And then like
You look over around, you're just like, I don't count. I don't count.
This is a coping mechanism. Sweats.
Ew. That's another word I can't do. Sweats.
Sweats? What, you don't get the meat sweats?
Ew.
You know what that is?
I'm assuming that's the lower region sweats.
No, it's literally when you're eating a lot of protein and you start to sweat.
Oh, no, I've never gotten that before.
Maybe it's my increased testosterone levels, but I be getting some meat sweats over at the Korean barbecue joint.
Nice.
Nice.
Moving on.
Anyways.
At Yodi Nut, air purifier vacuum.
True.
It's almost like a haiku. Almost.
Air purifier vacuum. That's not a haiku, but sure.
Yeah. It's close enough. At, see, I feel like I'm going to mess this one up too now. Yoboros? I don't know.
Your bros.
Yeah. Have a side job, even part-time. Being able to afford to say no to some of the low-end clients will save you so much abuse. It's not worth it at all. And in most cases, those people will never be happy with what they get.
That's oddly true. You would think, but the folks who want to lowball artists are always the most difficult people to work with. And I found this to be true almost every single time. They always want to add something or change something, or they think you're not working fast enough. And it's like, you're getting this for half the price you would elsewhere. Why are you pestering so much? So just don't take those customers. Take the L and try to make money on the side elsewhere if necessary.
I typically don't even ask for coupons or promos or anything like that. If I want good art or if I want something from an artist, I'm willing to pay for it because then I know that I'm getting a good quality piece.
Like, it's luxury item too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to use a coupon on your fursuit maker or your artist because you can't afford it. Like, you don't have to buy this thing. So just buy it for the asking price. And if you need to save money somewhere, then use your coupons over at the Kroger, all right?
It would be so funny though if you were like submitting your commission quote on like someone's fursuit website and all of a sudden Honey pops up and said, "We found 10 savings for you."
Oh my God.
That would be awesome. All right. Next up, we've got Rude Bird Studios. Don't go straight into commissions. You have zero idea of what your workflow is like and what can throw it off when you start. And thus, commissions are just asking for a hot mess of a queue if you're not on the ball.
I feel like this is the biggest mistake that newer fursuit makers make. That's a mouthful. Fursuit makers make. It's taking commissions either too soon or taking too many all at once. I know I fell into that hole. I took way too many all at once, and because I was in college and working on fursuits, I fell behind and it just started to pile up. But because I was going to college, I had to keep taking new commissions and it kept stacking and stacking. So I think that tip and the having a side job tip could go hand in hand. Don't immediately go into commissions. And when you do, don't take too many all at once. And even then, have a backup plan so you can afford to only take 1 or 2 commissions at a time until you know how you work.
From Nas FX Studios, don't jump into suit making full time until you can build an adequate demand, assuming you want to do it as a job. I see too many people quitting their day job too early and struggling to get enough work.
Yeah, that's always unfortunate to see too, because if you quit your day job to go into fursuit making, you know you're gung-ho about it and you're excited, and it could be heartbreaking to realize that you don't have the audience yet.
Yeah. From Delta Pause, keep emergency burn treatments nearby. Or at the very least, pick some up at the pharmacy, because it's not a matter of if you will burn yourself. It's a matter of when, how many times, and how badly you burn yourself. Learn this the hard way.
I have 2 scars on my legs from glue burns, and one of them was so bad. It was like my second year fursuit making, and it's still there. The hot glue gun had dripped onto my leg, and it burned like a divot. It was deep. It didn't even bleed. It was so cauterized. It was so gross. So yeah, do that.
From Dozing F, for first-time makers, do not take commissions. Or if you do, be sparing. I would recommend to never take a public commission for your first fursuit, since that could quickly put you in an awkward spot if your work isn't as functional.
Yeah, when they say public commission, they're meaning like, hey, I'm open for commissions, email me for a slot. Instead, see if somebody you know wants to commission you, maybe for cheap, or maybe they just pay for materials only, or make some pre-mates. But don't open a commission slot right away publicly.
Yeah, I can see, because it's almost like, what, can go wrong will go wrong kind of situation. You need to test your market.
That happened to one of my friends. They opened up a public slot saying, hey, I want to get more practice fursuit making for other people. If you pay for the supplies, I'll make you a fursuit and not charge you for the labor. And they did that. And of course, the person who gave them issues was a Circle. No offense, Circles, but like 8 years ago, y'all were nuts. So this was a long time ago. And
Circles
so they made
hard,
a fursuit for this person. It was a full suit, mind you.
Oh.
Like a DVC, resin base, all that stuff. They only charged them like $450, $500 because supplies were cheaper back then. And when they got it, they were unhappy with it. They're like, this wasn't made right and this doesn't fit right. And blah, 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 blah. But it's like they agreed that it was a practice round. They got a whole digigrade fursuit for like $400.
Yeah.
And they made a public post about it and made a whole stink. But they didn't reveal how much they paid for it. So my friend got into some trouble with that and then never took a commission again, ever.
Oh, that's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
From House of Cards Fur, wear a mask every time you work with fake fur. Yes, even sewing. This is what comes off of my clothes on a lint roller after I've done a bit of sewing, and it takes a few peels from the lint roller to get all the particles off me. What you guys don't see is it's one of those like pet rollers where you roll all the fur off and then you peel the paper off, and they have that picture. We'll give you guys a link to this particular tweet so you guys can go through. If there are pictures, you can see them.
This is true. You can actually get something called groomer's lung. It's a common thing with dog groomers where you get so many micro hairs in your lungs that it can coat it, and it can be irreversible. So, especially with microplastics, that's completely different because it's not
fiberglass.
Or fiberglass too. Yeah, that's way worse.
Yeah.
But you could get groomer's lung for making fursuits if you are not careful. Same thing with any chemicals. If you're working with barge or super glue or resin, expanding foam, you got to mask it up with the actual chemical masks in that case. Especially if you're shaving fur, wear a mask.
Like, maybe the basic hospital mask might do you,
That's fine for the fur, but for any chemicals, get something better.
Go to like Home Depot or go to Amazon, do your research, and then get what you actually need.
So our next one comes from Asterion Vega. If using hot glue, just get a good glue gun. Not the cheapest stuff. Even if you're only making one suit, it's still not a huge investment, and it will save you a lot of frustration since almost all cheap ones constantly leak and they are imprecise. You're going to get glue on everything. God, this is the truest shit because, get you a good $15 glue gun. They're just a little bit bigger. You can still get them at the Walmart. If you get the little mini ones or the little crappy like $8 ones, they are going to leak all over the place. That's how I got the scar on my leg I mentioned earlier. It's going to make a mess. And they cool down very quickly. They don't heat up the hot glue sticks, so you can't put a lot of glue down at a time, which you're going to need to do every now and then, especially when you're gluing fur down onto head bases. Just get you a good one.
I hope you didn't hear my throat seagull there. Can you hear it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes.
It's okay. My throat goes right sometimes, so you're valid.
Oh, gross. From Cat Numdrum, not necessarily a maker, but working on my second minking suit. What is a minky suit? I've never heard of that before.
So a minky suit, you remember the minky fabric I mentioned?
Yeah.
So it's just a fursuit, but made out of that instead of fur.
Oh, okay. I would say knowing fabrics aside from fur is pretty important as to what makes good lining like microfleece, as that can wick away sweat, and know your patterns. The more you know the general sewing stuff, the better.
Very good. Yeah, general sewing tutorials are going to help you. So many people will ask fursuit makers, can you make a tutorial on how to do this stitch or how to do this thing on the sewing machine? And it's like, those tutorials already exist everywhere because they're just general sewing tips. You don't need to have a fursuit maker explain it to you. Everybody who knows how to sew can explain this.
From Yokai Qrow, could be either one there. Be patient. You don't want a needle in the finger, but patience is rewarding. Reasonably update your commissioner on progress. Don't be afraid to do research. Having trouble with something, chances are someone else has had that issue too. Answers are usually found on the web or YouTube. And then model the suit.
So they had a handful of tips going on there. And all of them are valid. Absolutely model your suits. You never know how something is going to feel until you put it on. So if you put it on while you're making it, throughout making it, you'll know as you go. Because it's always a shame if you make a whole suit. And like, let's say you try on your head when it's just a base and it fits. And then you fur it completely. You finish the whole thing. You put it on again and now it's too tight. Well, because you didn't try it on throughout the furring process. So make sure you do that for sure.
From Apes Lion. Wonder clips for fur. And if you have to use pins, use only 10 at a time and then count 10 back. Last, rubber cement for foam, and wear a bloody mask if you're using it. Should be working with fur anyways.
Yeah, so rubber cement, when they say with foam, they don't mean upholstery foam. They probably mean EVA foam, like for the bottoms of fursuit feet.
Yeah.
And the other one, God, what was the other one? Oh, pins and wonder clips. So wonder clips are kind of like chip clips, but really small and really strong. Those are awesome because they cannot poke you. And they hold fabric a lot better than pins do. Pins can shift around and things won't line up perfectly. Whereas wonder clips or quilting clips, they work perfectly for almost all fabric types.
What does it mean when they say with pins, only use 10 at a time and then count 10 back?
So an issue that'll happen with pins, especially if you're pinning fabric to like a fursuit face, or I mean with anything, honestly, you'll lose track of them. And I feel like a lot of fursuit makers have gotten like quote unquote canceled for people finding pins in the face. And while that isn't good, you use so many of them throughout the process that if you forget one and then you glue fur over it and it's just in there forever, like it can hurt the person wearing it, or it could just float around in there indefinitely. But if you're only using 10 at a time and you're counting 10 back, you'll know, oh, I only have 9. I need to find the last one. Where is it? Using a magnet can help you with that too, because you'll feel where it is, where it's stuck.
This next one's really interesting. I've never actually heard this being used with fursuit making, so I'm actually quite curious. From your local raver, don't force yourself, you'll burn out. Added on that, don't rush yourself. Take your time and take breaks. Abide by the 6-2-1 rule. Wear masks if you don't have an air purifier. Don't use black Sharpies for patterning fur.
So one that really stuck out with me with that particular tweet was
6-2-1.
Well, 6-2-1, yes, because that's usually a rule for conventions.
I know. That's why I thought it was kind of odd, but
yeah. Well, I mean, if you are really in the zone with fursuit making, you probably will ignore sleep and eat specifically. I know I've done that before in the past. So take breaks to eat, take breaks to go to bed, and with the black Sharpie. So here's the thing.
It's because it bleeds.
It can. Like, you know how fursuit spray is made out of alcohol and water?
Yeah.
If you spray alcohol on a Sharpie, it makes it spread. So imagine if you have Sharpie all on the backing of your fursuit and then you spray it down with fursuit spray, it's going to bleed through and it's going to stain. So if you are using Sharpie, which I use Sharpie, I use black Sharpie and I use gray Sharpie. So sorry.
Don't worry about that.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I live in an apartment complex, and the people who live here are psychopaths.
Do you remember when we were interviewing What's-Her-Face from Australia, and we heard like constant...
Oh, Pokari?
Yeah, Pokari.
Yeah.
There's constant noise in the background.
Australia is noisy.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, what was I? Oh, yeah, Sharpie. I use Sharpie, all right? I'll tell you this now. I use black Sharpie, I use gray Sharpie. I try to use Sharpies that come from the dollar store because they are half dried out when you buy them. And that way, when I'm drawing on the back of the fur, it isn't super dark, for one. And then the other thing that I do is I draw my patterns out about a ½ inch bigger than I need them to be. Usually you do about 1/3 of an inch for seam allowance, but I use a ½ inch. And the reason is that when I cut my fur out, I'm going to cut it underneath the Sharpie line so that I can still trace the pattern out. But when I cut it, the Sharpie is not left over.
Smart.
So, because I just find Sharpie so much easier. You can also use Taylor's chalk. You could use washable pencils, things like that. But I've always found that I really have to put a lot of pressure down when I use those. And it has just never worked as well for me as Sharpie. So I've had my workaround. But get dollar store Sharpies. And also silver Sharpie doesn't bleed. So silver Sharpie is safe. Black Sharpie is not. So use it at your own discretion.
From King Mutt. Glue gun safety. I recommend that you give your gun a 10-minute unplugged break every hour or so to avoid glue getting too hot and causing injury or damage to the gun. This is especially important for Dollarama glue guns. Well, there you go.
They have specific knowledge.
Yeah.
Your glue gun will explode every now and then. Like, I don't even mean the glue exploding out of it. I mean, like, the device will explode. I've seen so many fursuit makers post, like, well, here goes another one. And, like, it's split in half. Yeah. It definitely will prolong the life if you unplug it. I don't do that. But be smarter than me. One time, actually, I left it plugged in all night. And it did nothing. But still, it could have done something.
I now know this person's from Canada because that's where Dollarama is from.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I Googled it while you were talking.
Dollarama?
Dollarama.
Rama.
All right. From M. Coy Dog. A good vacuum is key. Also, research your tools and materials before you buy. I mean, okay, I can comment on this one. This is a generic, obvious one. You should always do your research before you buy something. Like when you buy a computer or you buy a phone or you buy a car, you just don't go out and willy-nilly buy something blindly. That's like the worst thing to do. You might wind up spending a little more for it, but buying a good set of clippers versus cheaper ones or good quality versus thin, cheap fur can make a world of a difference in a process and result.
It genuinely can. I will say when it comes to clippers, I found something out recently. I, for years, used the same clippers that, I forget the brand of them. Andes, that was the brand. They're pet clippers, and they were like $120 clippers. Insanely expensive, ceramic blade, all that good stuff. But then I saw a fursuit maker using a wireless one, and again, I forget the name brand, but they had a link to it on Amazon, and it was only $30.
What?
And their videos, they were shaving it the smoothest shave job I've ever seen. And I was like, you know what? It's only $30. Let's try it. And that sucker works good. It works great. And a bunch of other fursuit makers started buying it and using it too. And I'm like, damn, dude, I could have been saving so much money all these years. But usually the more expensive something is, usually the higher quality. But that was the one exception I've ever come across when it comes to shavers.
Do you think we can use a link for a description for that? So if people want to look for one,
yes,
they can look for that.
Yep.
Coolio. All right. I love this name. From Lobito Works. Don't rush into taking commissions. People may pressure you to turn. Wait, have we already gone over that one?
Yeah, a lot of people gave the same tips.
Okay. So I'll still read it. Lobito Works, don't rush into taking commissions. People may pressure you into it, into a business, but it's also okay if fursuit making is just a hobby. Don't be afraid to try new things. You can deviate from tutorials. There's no one way to make a fursuit.
Absolutely. That's something else to keep in mind. Not only should you not rush into commissions, even if you're interested in
Have
doing
fun with
them.
it.
Like, if you're just making fursuits for fun and people start requesting it, like, you should really take commissions for this. Don't feel pressured just because you have a demand.
Yeah.
You can make fursuits as a hobby and just make pre-mades if you want to.
There's an old saying, like, there's people who work to love and there's people that love to work. So...
All right, I'm going to chime in really quick with those affordable shavers. They are called Sminneker Professional Low Noise Rechargeable Cordless Cat Dog Horse Clippers on Amazon.
Can you send me the link for it?
Yeah, I will. But it has an even longer name, but I was like, I'm going to stop it at Cat Dog Horse.
All right, from Floofy Andy, don't take on too many projects at once. Give yourself a limit. I took 5 projects, 3 smaller ones and 2 bigger ones. Since I'm slow, I can take a long while even to finish a hand pod. Be honest about your work speed too. Not all makers are fast, and that's okay.
Yeah. Speeds can vary.
That's a definite thing too. From if you're commissioning someone, communicate with them, see what their actual turnaround time is. I don't know if anyone really, do many fursuits actually give like their turnaround time?
They'll give an average, but a lot of fursuit makers who will have, they either are able to complete deadlines, but a lot of them in their terms of service say that no deadlines are accepted because shit happens. Like if you're making a pair of hand paws and you accidentally shave too close on a finger, just restarting that finger or having to restart a whole hand paw could set you back a whole week or so. Like it happened to me actually. I made a pair of hand paws and I was extremely unhappy with them. The fur I had bought was thinner than it normally is, and the shaving was just ugly. So I told the person I was honest with them. I said, I finished these hand paws, but they're bad. I need to start over. It's going to set me back 2 weeks. So it just depends on the maker, and always set up wiggle room for things like that.
All right. From Lolo Fennec. It's always better to have too much fur than not enough. Dye lots change frequently, and some furs even just randomly stop being produced.
True.
Yeah.
And I've made this mistake many a time. Rory's fursuit has been in progress for about 3 years, and I've had her fur in my closet for about 3 years. And right now, my struggle is that her fursuit head is done, but the yellow fur on her head, I haven't found an exact match yet because the dye lot has changed by now, which means that the dye that they use to make this fur is just like a shade or two different, even though it's the same fur from the same website, because factories just, they change, you know? So definitely buy more than you need.
This next one that I'm going to go over real quick, it reminds me of, I keep seeing videos of them on TikTok and Instagram, are the people that use like those super freaking sharp, they look almost like claw knives, and they use it to cut actual like elk skin fur, and it cuts so perfectly. I just want one to try cutting something with it.
It sounds satisfying.
It really is. If I find out what it is, I'll let you know. From Lex the Glider, get an X-Acto knife and a small pack of replaceable blades. Use this to cut fur, not scissors. It won't cut the ends of the fur, creates less of a mess, and is a lot faster and better on the hands.
Very true. Scissors will mess with your hands after a while. X-Acto knives are also just faster, especially if you're snapping the ends of the blades off as they get dull. You can also use them to trim foam. Like when I'm trimming large chunks off of a fursuit head base, like shaving down the cheeks, for example, I'll take the blades with the snap-off ends, and I'll just put a new one in that's really long, and I'll use that to trim my foam down. It's really helpful.
Seeing if I can find what I was talking about. I might just have to like link you a video if I see something. All right. From Munashi808, Gray Muzzle here. Don't reinvent the wheel. Time is money. Back in my day, we didn't have all these precast foam heads and resin claws, and I totally wish we did. Sculpting, carving, casting is a whole nother skill, and it's extremely hard and not always worth putting time into.
I loved this response because as I'm scrolling through Twitter and Instagram, I always see these fursuit makers who are utilizing technology and finding ways to streamline their work. And it's always fursuit makers that do this for a living, right? So streamlining your work is really helpful in that sense because saving time is saving money. So expanding foam bases, 3D printing, resin cast, all that stuff, it can be daunting, and sometimes as a new fursuit maker you feel like you have to do these things or you have to use these things, but you don't. You could go old school. Everything I make is old school. If I do use 3D printed parts, I did not make them, I bought them, right? You could just carve your own bases from upholstery foam. You could use EVA foam. You could use fleece and fur. You don't have to go crazy with the tech. An old school fursuit can look just as good as a fursuit made with all of these new technological advancements. It might take you a little longer, but it can still look just as beautiful and just as solid.
And I almost would recommend only doing these types of things if you're streamlined and you're doing well. Then you might have room or wiggle room to implement some of these types of replacements or different types of skill, but it's not something I would recommend doing at the get-go.
Yeah, especially right at the beginning like that. The only thing I would consider actually doing in the future for myself is getting a 3D printer for bases, because I find that sculpting with clay and things like that, it feels similar in a 3D program, and I feel like I could make some really unique fursuits with it. But I've been making fursuits for 13 years, so it's like I just now have considered doing something like that. If you're brand new, don't jump into things like that unless you're already interested in 3D printing. Like if you already have a 3D printer because you 3D print trinkets and things, then that's naturally a next step for you. But if you don't know anything about that stuff, don't worry about it.
Don't go into it. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I don't know anything about 3D printers. I know there's things you need to learn, like coding and stuff. It's not my alley. It's not a program I want to get into. It's just not for me. If I ever get into making fursuits, which I don't, I tried to make one once and that was it.
You have a hard time even wearing them, don't you?
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to wear it. It's just that, I don't know, I get scared when I wear mine. I get really nervous on the inside. Like people say getting into a fursuit is an escape for them. It's the complete opposite. Getting into a fursuit is like a nightmare for me.
Yeah, I remember you describing it at BLFC because we had to talk it out because it was making you upset.
Yeah.
And you said it almost felt like you had to perform, like it was an expectation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's not something I want to do. Like naturally in my own like space, in my own like person, I can perform and do what I want to when I want to because I'm naturally just like that. But when you put me into something, that's completely different. I don't like it. It's a little claustrophobic. It makes me really insecure about myself. And I actually start getting like really dark thoughts. And so I just kind of stay away from it. I mean, not to say that I won't fursuit in the future. I'll have to figure out a way around that, but it is. I mean,
it's all, everybody is different, you know?
Yeah.
It might help if you just practice in your own home and become more comfortable with the character too.
Might be. I have to do some character development, which I have not done yet.
Yeah. But it's not for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah. From Bouncy Bat, count your pins. If you're pinning foam fabric to a head, count how many you put in and how many you remove to make sure you don't leave one behind.
Yep, solid.
From Fursuit glasses. Oh, did they make Fursuit glasses?
Yeah, they do. I was actually thinking about them with your
Oh.
fursuit too.
I've actually thought about this company. Common maker phrase, fail faster. You can't improve if you don't try. My first glasses I sold were pretty terrible compared to today, but I'd never get to where I am if I never tried that first attempt.
You gotta suck at something before you can kind of be good at something.
Yeah. From NWB Suits, I think it's important for beginner makers to never take on more than 1 or 2 commissions at a time. Fursuits can take a lot more work than you would expect, and taking on less than you think you can handle will save you from unhappy customers by passing ETAs.
Estimate time of arrivals.
Yep.
Just in case you don't know what that means. Yep.
I know what an ETA is.
Well, I'm talking about our listeners, bro.
I watch spy movies.
Okay. Yeah, don't take on more than you can chew, definitely.
From Felis Tyria, or Felis Tyria, use good thread like upholstery thread or other synthetic threads. Thick buttons threads work wonders too, but risk fraying. Also, needles. Get different needle styles like curved ones or thick ones. There's always tricky parts in a fursuit where you'll need different needles.
Yeah, this is a solid tip, and I didn't know about upholstery thread until maybe my 4th year fursuit making, and I remember always getting frustrated when I was hand sewing because I would pull my arm away after doing a stitch, and then the thread would just break off of my needle, and I was like, why does this keep happening? And then my friend Marlo actually came to visit after FWA one year, and we did a speed run fursuit head where they carved the base and then we worked together to fur it. And and they were like, why do we have upholstery thread? And I was like, what is that? And we went to store and bought some, and I exclusively used it for hand sewing since then.
So this next one, basically, they talk about how I was saying that you need to know your colors in person rather than what's on the computer. And they make a really good point with this. Always order swatches or examine fabrics in person whenever possible. Colors may appear different in real life. Compare colors in daylight, artificial light, camera flash, etc. Know how to identify low quality fur. It's worth the extra effort to buy samples first. Fursuits will look different in the dark than they will look in the light. In the glow in the dark, they will look different when do you know what milk lighting is?
No.
So if you ever want to know the most unflattering area in a grocery store is the milk aisle, because they use these fluorescent colors that just don't look flattering. So know what your colors look like in different lights, make it a lot different and make it a lot easier to figure out what works best and what doesn't work.
I like that they specified make sure you understand how to identify low quality fur, because I feel like that isn't talked about enough. I don't think I've ever come across a maker explaining what low quality fur looks like. But if you hold...
Fur that's low quality.
Yeah, but sometimes people don't know what that means. So if you hold your fur pile up to a light and you can see the light through it, clearly, that's low quality. If you have fur that is colored, let's say you're using black fur, if you look at the backing of that fur and you see a lot of white speckles, that means that fur is going to be thin and you can't shave it, because all of the white spots are areas where fur does not exist. So if you have a lot of little white speckles and you shave it down, that means those spots are going to be bald. The color of the fur is weaved through the backing. So if you have blue or black or whatever color fur and you see a bunch of white on the back, even if it seems like just grainy white, still, the more solid that backing color is, the better the fur thickness is going to be.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but that was from Mongoose Fangs.
No, you didn't. Good to know.
Okay. And they have another post later on, and I'll get to that one in a little bit. From Zero Crux Given, if you choose to take commissions, never ever under any circumstances send the suit before you've received full payment for it. Have seen so many young makers, myself included, do this out of trust and never get the money. Put your work first.
Yep, that goes for art too. Never finish a piece, never ship a piece, nothing like that until it is paid off.
From Dano GSD, make the eyes bigger than you think. And that new bigger version of eyes that you just made after reading this tip are still not big enough. When you add fur, the eyes will end up being smaller than you picture.
You will see a lot of professional fursuit makers make their eyes first and install them on the
Huge.
base and things like that. And you're like, oh, okay, so I make the eyes first. If you're new at it, I suggest making the eyes last, because the only reason those fursuit makers make them first is because they know what size they have to be now.
Yeah.
With their specific fursuit style. Always make the tiplet for your eyes after furring if you're brand new at it, because the fur and the foam will just shrink them.
From Apricity Hats, estimate how long it will take you to make a piece, then triple it. This gives you more breathing room when unforeseen issues come up, not if, when. That's in all caps. Do this and you won't have to stress crunch to finish on time and maybe even finish early.
Especially if you're trying to make a suit for a convention, because sometimes you're so stressed about finishing that suit in time for the con that by the time you get to the con, you are not having fun because you just spent the last 2 weeks stressing out. So definitely do that.
Okay, this next one comes from Arliss Dragon. Before I go into it, just kind of keep in mind that your body clock will always be pretty much the same across the board. So keeping that in mind, it kind of makes sense to mention that. Don't sew after 10 p.m. You're going to end up seam ripping a lot. Can't catch mistakes when you're tired until it's doubled your workload. Your body's naturally going to get tired at a certain time of night. Don't go past that time of night. Don't be like, okay, I can just finish it with this last bit. Your body starts to get tired. Your brain wants to go to sleep. Then that's where you should stop. Just in general. I'm not a fursuit maker, but I know when I need to stop doing certain things.
Yep, and you're not wrong. Everybody's body is different. But ironically, 10 p.m. is about when my body starts to give up. I work way better in the morning, which is the opposite for most artists. But I am a morning person. I work way better in the morning. I make less mistakes in the morning. And the later it gets, the more mistakes I make.
I mean, I like to game at night, but that's about it. Like, I'm not making it like a profession or anything, but I do even know, like, when I take my meds and they get me a little tired, I know that when I'm gaming, I'm going to be making mistakes, and we usually cut it off at that point.
Yeah.
All right. From Mongoose Fangs, again, you don't need a sewing machine to make a suit. If you already have one, great. But if you don't have to invest a lot of money to get started. A hand sew suit can be just as neat and durable, if not more. Know your blanket stitch and ladder stitch. They will carry you far.
Oh, yeah. You can hand sew an entire bodysuit. Will it take you longer? Yes. But it'll still hold up as long as you do the stitches properly and you do them close together.
From Fumble Squid, to be careful of taking on too many customers at once. 1 or 2 commissions at a time is best, so you can pace yourself and raise prices as you steadily improve. Also, setting boundaries with customers and not underselling. Have a good TOS is a must. Explain what a TOS is.
A TOS is a terms of service. So if you're going to be taking commissions, you need to have a terms of service. Not only does it need to be listed somewhere publicly, like a website or your queue, you also need to make sure you put it in your PayPal invoices where it says terms of service. That way, if they try to issue a chargeback for a reason and it's in your terms of service, then hopefully that'll help you win that case. So for example, in your terms of service, you might say that the buyer is responsible for shipping. And if you finish your commission, and the commissioner is like, well, I already paid for the suit. I don't want to pay for shipping. Well, you already agreed to pay for shipping, so it's in my terms of service, right? So just keep those things in mind. You definitely need a terms of service if you're selling anything. And what was the other part of the statement?
Raise prices as you steadily improve?
Yes, raise your prices as you steadily improve. Oh, and have boundaries. That was the other thing. Do have boundaries with your customers, okay? It's okay to make friends with a customer if that naturally happens, but don't let them pressure you if they are pressuring you in a situation that is not appropriate. Now, if you've gone months and months without contacting them and updating them, of course they're going to be a little worried and a little more pushy, right? Because you're supposed to keep in contact with your customers. But if you have a customer that is messaging you like every 2 or 3 days, like, can I have a work in progress? Is there any work in progress? Have you gotten anywhere yet? Or even like weeks. Fursuits take a long time to make, so sometimes you might go 3 weeks without messaging a work in progress, and that's normal. And so if they're coming at you constantly, like, when's the progress going to be made? When is this finished? You can set up a boundary. That's okay. Tell them like, hey, my turnaround time is typically, whatever. Let's just say 6 months. And I've only had you on my queue for a week. You have to give me some time before you ask for updates. Don't be scared to set up boundaries with customers. Oftentimes when they're doing that, it's because they're just new at the commissioning process and they don't know.
From Night Fury Scream, something I struggled with, and I do still sometimes, just cut into the foam for fabric. A fursuit with mistakes is better than no fursuit at all, and mistakes can be corrected.
Absolutely.
Yes and no.
It depends on what you mean you're cutting into, you know?
Yeah, and it also depends on how severe the mistake is.
Yeah, so at one point I made a fursuit base and the muzzle was like way too long. And I was like, God, what am I going to do? I'm not going to restart this whole thing. So I was like, you know what? I took my X-Acto knife and I just cut the muzzle off and then cut the middle, like taking the middle part of a sandwich out and then glued it back on. And I was like, oh, okay, that was easy.
Was that my fursuit head?
No.
No? Okay.
It was, I don't remember what it was. I think it was the ball python, actually. But if it was finished, like if the fur was on it, at that point it is too late to just hack into it.
Yeah. From Goth Simba, fursuits are so ugly when they're in progress, but don't give up. It's true.
Yep, there's always going to be an ugly phase. There's probably going to be 3 ugly phases.
From Stray Light, what the fuck? Oh, from Stray Light WTF, sorry. I was actually reading it. You don't have to take commissions if you don't want to, ever. Don't feel pressured if you do or if you don't want to. And when you first start, don't even worry about commissions. Build your skill set and really weigh out if you want to run building fursuits as a business or just want to create.
Yep.
With that being said, there's a difference between having a business and liking what you do, but then also just doing it for fun. When you're creating, it's boundless. You can do whatever you want. And you can still do the same with a business. But the problem is I find that, for instance, our podcasts, I love what we do. But if we ever tried to make a business out of it, I don't know if I would love it anymore. There's just something about the way that we do it, the way that it's available for everyone. That's just something that I like. But when it comes to like a business, then it just, it makes me feel weird. I don't really like that kind of a thing.
Sometimes turning something into a job does take the joy out of it. It depends on who you are as a person. Some people say, you know, if your job is what you genuinely love doing, then you don't work a single day in your life. But that's not true for everybody. That actually occurred with me for a long time. I was really burned out from commissions, especially when I was deep into that hole of taking on too many commissions in order to continue to be financially stable, to the point where I hated fursuit making for a long time. And I bet you remember this phase of my life space because I talked to you about it a lot.
Yeah.
And now that I've gotten to a point where I have my own apartment, I have a more isolated studio that isn't in a dark room anymore, and I have a manageable queue where I'm only taking maybe a couple sock paw commissions a month. I have a mall commission right now that I'm excited for, and I have like 1 head commission left. Now that it's manageable and I don't have to rely on it, like it's still a business, but it's not the only thing I'm doing, and I could take it bit by bit comfortably. I've fallen in love with it again. So sometimes making things a big business will make it harder for you. So start small, and if as you grow and take more, you're continuing to enjoy it, then keep going. But if you find that you're not, then slow it down.
From Oops Cry, don't be afraid to ask what. Just
Oops Cry.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Not sure how something is done? Try asking a fursuit maker on how they do it. If Google fails you, phone a profession. Oh, phone a professional. I get it. More often than not, they don't mind questions. In fact, just like this thread that we're doing here, we asked the community a question and they came back responding. Tons of different tips here.
I've done that before. I will always, every time I have a question about fursuit making, I always start it with fursuit makers in all caps at the top. And I've done that before where I'll ask questions like, fursuit makers, how do you do this thing? I'm feeling lost. And then people will respond, and it's awesome. Now, that also being said, if you message a fursuit maker a question and they do not respond to you, do not be offended. Don't automatically assume, oh, they think they're better than me, they can't help me out. Sometimes they're just genuinely busy, or if they're a really popular fursuit maker, the DM gets buried, and that just happens. If you contact a maker and they don't respond to you, try a different maker, or try making a post instead. All right. Don't point fingers immediately just because somebody doesn't help you immediately.
From Tipsy Grimly, keep going because it will look ugly until you finish, at least in my case when I started making. Keep going even if it seems not good enough. You'll never know how amazing it looks if you never finish.
True. You got to finish it to know.
From Nightmares S, that's an interesting name. Do a background check on your clients. Make sure they read the TOS before before ordering.
Yep.
Now, to do a background check on your clients, that's a little hard to do. If you want to, maybe look into what's the, is there a clients beware list?
No, there's always the fursuit makers beware, but there's never the clients beware, which is
Why
unfortunate.
isn't there a clients beware
I don't
list?
know,
There needs to
Space.
be
That's
one.
something I've complained about for years, where people they will always point fingers at the fursuit makers, but there's thousands of shitty clients out there that just go unknown because there isn't a clients beware. So a background check doesn't necessarily mean having to get an official paid for background check like you would with an actual employer.
You can ask around.
It could mean just going to their Twitter page. It could mean Googling their username and seeing if they have an account somewhere else. Like if they have an account in Ink Bunny, that's a red flag. Or if they have white power in their bio on For Affinity but not on their Twitter, that's a red flag, right? So just Google them. Just pick around a little bit. One time
Google them bitches.
Yeah, Google them up, see what they got. Because I remember a client was asking for a quote at one point, and, I saw their character, and I was like, okay, let me check them out. And I did, and they had, Sue porn on their For Affinity, so I just immediately blocked them and moved on with my life, So just search them up on the internet. You don't have to go and do a whole paid background check at the police station.
From Cynocephalus Art, safety is really important. So many tools and materials we use can be dangerous. For example, breathing in or touching resin is poisonous. For particles from shaving can be bad for your lungs. Some glue fumes are toxic.
Correct. Use those masks. Use a well-ventilated area with glue and resin.
From Furry Crossing, always save your patterns until it's shipped. You never know when you'll mess up or lose a piece.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You could think you're perfectly done with patterning something. You're like, it's furred, it's sewed, I'm ready. And then something happens. Maybe you drop food on it and it stains. Or maybe, I don't know, your dog chews a piece. I don't know. That's the most dramatic situation. Or maybe you just genuinely fuck up and you gotta fix it. Save those patterns.
From Pocket Mouse, definitely keep an eye out for the 40 to 60% off coupon sales at Joann's. Can get a lot of foam or polyfill for way cheaper.
I only buy certain fabrics, but always foam and polyfill. I only get it when it's on sale. If you have a Joann's and you are a common shopper there, hey, Joann's, sponsor us. No, I'm joking. If you have a Joann's and you frequently shop there for fursuit making or crafting, get the app, because you might get the coupon book in the mail or on your receipts, but every time you have the app, almost every single day I look at it, there's always at least a 40%, if not a 50% coupon on there for a single item. And guess what? A roll of 5 yards of foam counts as a single item. Get that bread,
Hoarder.
honey. A hoarder. No, I only buy it as I need it, but I only buy it on sale because it's expensive.
From Cinnamon Tail, burnout is real. Sometimes you have to take a step back from a project when you start off, and that's okay. You'll come back recharged and it'll feel great.
Yes, take breaks.
From Space Mutts. Oh, I'm not a space mutt, but I like the name.
Space Mutt and Space Bear.
Oh, that's cute. It's a challenging art form, and it's normal to feel a bit overwhelmed at first, but every journey starts with that first step. Remember, it's okay to make mistakes. It's how you learn and improve. Don't be afraid to get started.
Yes, it can be daunting. It's a really daunting hobby to get into, but take your time with it. Go through your tutorials, ease into it, and you'll be all right.
So we don't have enough time to go through all of the comments, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to. It's just a more, we have our limits on time as well. So I'll read a few more. If I didn't get to you, again, it's nothing personal. It's just we have to keep on a specific time. But we do thank you for making comments on this post, and we'll definitely use this particular Twitter link probably for future episodes. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
From Evie Dream, get clippers for pet hair specifically. Pet stores have high quality ones that last. Ask a dog groomer what they use and recommend for the best options. You want ones that will handle constantly cutting hair over and over again, and anything a pro dog groomer uses is perfect. I mean, you really can't go wrong there.
Absolutely. Don't use human clippers. I feel like a lot of newer makers try that out. Not the same thing.
No.
You gotta get the pet clippers.
Human hair is different from fake fur. So
dog fur is the closest thing you'll get to it.
From Coloportis, heavy duty sewing machine and get denim needles for fur. Don't suffer like I did.
Yeah, you do need heavy-duty sewing needles at least if you're going to sew through fur. Otherwise, your needles are going to break, and it's going to just be really irritating for you.
From Manta Crafts, Always use PPE. That's personal protective equipment. Masks, goggles, gloves, etc. If considering taking on commissions, wait till you have the financial means to refund it if necessary. Always test, refine new techniques, treatments first before using them on a suit.
Yep. Never treat a customer like a guinea pig unless they are 100% okay with it. And only if you do that, only do it for little things. Like, oh, I want to try a magnetic tongue. Can I use your commission for this? Yeah, that's fine. But don't do whole new techniques on a commission, all right?
And the last comment comes from me. Have integrity in what you do. That should be one of the most number one things on what you're thinking. You should never compromise your integrity for a customer, for speed, or anything. Put your hard work into it. Be proud of that. Never say less than that. So have integrity in what you do. That's probably what I would say.
That's perfect. What a perfect end.
Right?
Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah.
Take a curtsy.
I shall. I'm sitting, but I am taking a curtsy. You're
Very
welcome. And it
good.
was very fabulous. I had a ballerina outfit on, in my mind.
Man, this was a fun episode. I
It
love
was.
it when the community comes together and makes these forums. It almost takes me back to the days of like live journals,
Oh,
and
God.
everybody would comment on them and you would just have miles and miles of feedback. It's great.
Live journal.
I love live journal.
I
miss
do
it.
not love live journal.
Or other threads that you would find on, oh God, what were they called? Forums. Just forums.
What is this? Oh my God. So I went away and someone made an action figure, like a furry action figure, but it's a centaur kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of weird looking. I don't like it.
Funky,
It's creepy.
funky.
Anyways, besides the point, we always thank you guys for listening to our episodes. If you have tips or tricks you'd like to share, go ahead and send us an email at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. I am actively responding to them in a timely manner for once.
You go.
Woo! Or you can always just make a comment on existing posts that we already have. We have a Telegram chat that you can join in and chat with a lot of fun people. There's always something going on every day, so you always meet new people and have fun stuff. What else? Oh, we have a Twitter.
Oh, yeah, we do have a Twitter. That's the whole thing we did today.
Yeah, at From the Muzzle. And you'll find stuff there. And I'm just going to go ahead and, shake my feathers here too, my little bird feathers. I'm not a bird, but for some reason it made sense. I have officially created my own Twitter.
Yay, go space.
I've had a couple of different Twitters, one for something specific and one for something else. And I'm just like, hey, creating my own Twitter. It's at Jedi Knight Space if you want to join it. I'll probably post random shit like I do on my Facebook, but I'm trying to wean away from Facebook and go to Twitter. But then again, Elon Musk, man, kind of makes me not want to be part of Twitter.
Twitter broke for a couple minutes. What was it?
Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, that was
Rip.
awful. Anyways, we thank you guys for listening and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Oh, we harmonized on that. That was cute.